My name is Bessie. I'm sitting at the Thanksgiving dinner table, the air thick with a false sense of family harmony. My grandmother raises her wine glass, a smile on her wrinkled face. It's beautiful, she says. The tradition survived because of us. I blink, genuinely confused. What tradition? She lets out a laugh that sends a chill down my spine. The first daughters were never meant to succeed. Your great-grandfather believed educated women abandoned family. So, every generation we made sure the eldest girl stayed trapped. The table falls silent, and I feel a fire ignite within me. But then, she adds, you were the first one smart enough to escape. I slowly rise from my seat, reach into my purse, and slide a folder across the table. My mother looks at me nervously. What's this? A property deed, I say calmly. Confusion spreads across their faces. I smile and continue, you remember the old family house? The one every generation fought to inherit. My mother nods. I bought it last year. There's a long silence. I lean closer. And tomorrow morning it becomes a women's scholarship foundation exclusively for first daughters. Grandma drops her wine glass, and my mother bursts into tears. It's a moment of pure catharsis, and for the first time in generations, the curse that had haunted our family ends with me. Let me take you back to the beginning. I grew up in a small, close-knit but suffocating family. My family was part of an old-fashioned community where traditions held sway. My father, Henry, was a strict man, a firm believer in the family's long-standing ways. He worked as a local businessman, and his word was law at home. My mother, Clara, was a meek woman, constantly under the thumb of my father and my grandmother. In our family, there was an unspoken rule. The first daughters were destined to a life of domesticity. They were expected to marry young, have children, and take care of the household. My grandmother, Evelyn, was the enforcer of this tradition. She had lived her life according to these rules and expected the same from the women in the family. I was different. I had big dreams. I loved to study, and my mind was full of ideas about changing the world. When I received the acceptance letter from Stanford University, I felt like my life was about to take off. It was like a door had opened to a world of possibilities. I ran home, excited to share the news. I burst into the living room, waving the envelope in the air. But as soon as my mother saw it, her face went pale. She stared at the envelope for a moment, then forced a smile. She walked over to me, took the envelope from my hand, and without a word, ripped it into tiny pieces. You belong here, she said, pointing at the kitchen. This is your place. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I felt my heart break into a million pieces. That night, I cried so hard that my whole body ached. I lay in my bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about my future. At 2 a.m. While everyone in the house was asleep, I made a decision. I packed a single backpack with the few things that mattered to me. I tiptoed into my father's study and stole $50 from his coat pocket. Then, I slipped out of the house and into the cold, dark night. The next few years were tough. I worked double shifts at diners, washing dishes and serving customers. I slept in subway stations when I couldn't afford a place to stay. I applied for countless jobs, but most of the time, I was rejected. People looked at me with pity, or they just didn't believe in my dreams. But I didn't give up. I kept working hard, learning everything I could about technology. One day, I had an idea for a security software for luxury banks. I poured all my energy into developing it. It was a long and difficult journey, but eventually, I managed to build a tech company. 7 years later, my company was a huge success. I owned penthouses in 3 major cities, and magazines were fighting to interview me. I had become a well-known figure in the tech world. Suddenly, my family remembered me. My mother called, crying about the bills. My brother, Jack, asked for startup money for his new business. My cousins, Lily and Tom, begged for jobs in my company. I could have said no. I could have told them to leave me alone. But I didn't. I paid for my niece, Mia's, private school tuition because she dreamed of becoming a scientist. I bought my mom a new house in a nice neighborhood. I even funded my younger cousin's, Ben's, medical treatment. People online called me inspirational. They saw me as a kind-hearted person who had come back to help her family. But they didn't know the real reason I stayed close. I was biding my time, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And that moment came at this Thanksgiving dinner. As I watch my family's shocked faces, I feel a sense of satisfaction. The years of pain, the rejection, and the struggle have all led to this moment. I've broken the chains that bound me and all the first daughters in my family. The curse is finally over, and I'm free. If you love revenge stories with savage twists, family secrets, and endings that hit like a thunderstorm in silk heels, you're in for a treat. This is just the beginning of my journey, and there are more stories to tell. So, if you're ready for an adventure, stay tuned.